Conflict happens in all marriages, but in a lot of marriages, it's not handled effectively. This year, learn to break your conflict cycles with the right tools and strategies for your marriage. To get conflict coaching for your marriage, go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com/conflict coaching.
From Naples, Florida, this is a One Extraordinary Marriage show, where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex has taken the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call or text us on the Hug Hotline at 858-876-5663 or send us an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In today's episode, we're shifting our focus from the past to the present and the future and addressing those areas that we are each going to work on in the new year.
And there's a quote from Depiano that says, "We all get the same 365 days. The only difference is what we do with them." And I think as we begin to talk about what the new year is going to hold, it's really important to think about what you are going to do with the 365 days that you will be given in this upcoming year. And, we start every episode here at One Extraordinary Marriage with a hug. And this hug comes from an email that we received that just started with, "I wanted to let you quickly know how important your mission is to so many, many people, and personally thank you for saving our marriage of 29 years. You guys rock. My wife and I were married for 24 years, but after raising 3 children and sending them to college, a few years ago, I took a job in Saudi Arabia, in part because our relationship was simply not working. 3 years later, we were on the cusp of divorce before we found your podcast. Your 6 pillars and the frank, funny way in which you describe the trials, tribulations, and seasons of marriage resonated with us. We agreed to listen to an episode a week and see if there was anything worth saving between us. It was difficult at times, and there were many long nights of introspection, but I'm thrilled to let you know that we have fallen back in love with each other and are enjoying the most beautiful spring season our marriage has ever had. My wife elected to retire early. Today is her last day of work and will be joining me here in Saudi Arabia next month. We're both ecstatic and looking forward to rebuilding a life together. We will celebrate our 29th anniversary next Friday and are both so grateful to you for showing both of us and so many others that it is okay to disagree, but a marriage is worth saving. Ours may not be important and we are not well-known celebrities, but staying together has had such a positive impact upon our family and our children that I wanted to thank you on behalf of our family for all the work that you do. You honor our Lord with your work and know that you will always have 2 faithful fans and listeners in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia."
Wow. That's a thank you, Jesus moment, right? Like that's just one of those things I needed to hear this morning, honestly. And to hear, it takes intentionality, right? It takes some action. I think what really stuck out to me though, the willingness to step in this season. And the reason it hit me, and I think you as well, is just over this last week, we've seen so many people we know in our age demographic specifically that have just, we've known over the years and we've seen that they've divorced or separated or whatever it may be. So to hear like, all right, we were willing to do it. And I don't know everybody's situation and what happened there, but it's just encouraging to me. The one piece though that says that I want to share with everybody, our marriage may not be important and we are not well-known celebrities. And yet, this is what I say, Elisa and I aren't either. We're just 2 people who are willing to get behind a microphone and have been willing to get behind our microphone for 15 years to impact marriages. And you can do the same. And this marriage, I believe, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is going to have an impact even in that kingdom to shine the light of Jesus Christ.
Well, and as we're talking about what today's episode is in regard to, it being a new year and what's your focus. The other thing that struck me in that hug was we're being thanked on behalf of their family and their children. And I think that's a big part as we start to look at what we're focusing on. What does it look like, not just to invest in our marriages, work in our marriages for ourselves, but also for the people that are around us.
That's right.
Last week, those of you that listened to that episode, we had reflected on the successes, right? What you were each proud of when it comes to your marriage. But as I've said to a lot of my coaching clients, I won't say all, but a very high percentage of my coaching clients over the year, if you aren't dead, there's still work to be done. And there are still things that you can be working on to create the extraordinary marriage in your desire. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of you listening last week that are in a place where you don't know what the future holds for your marriage. You don't it's been a rough year and you don't know what and you're looking at this and you're like, hey, we've got more problems than positives, right? We don't know where to start. We don't know what to do. And that's why we couldn't just do last week's show celebrating the successes. We also had to do this week's show talking about the fact that we need to, what's the focus going to be? Because we don't just sit in the past and go, well, you know what? That was fantastic. Congratulations, everybody. High five, gold star, put the medal on the wall. It's also looking and going, hey, here we are. We're literally on the cusp of a new year. I was thinking about it because this episode will drop on New Year's Eve. And, which is a very exciting time. It's always that transition point of 1 year to a next. And we don't, for Tony and I, just because of the way the calendar works and when we release episodes, we don't often get to do an episode that actually will come out on New Year's Eve, right? And so being in this place and coming to this particular moment in time and saying, what is our next year going to look at? What is the focus going to be? And, many of you were around earlier this year and had listened to the episode from January 790. I mentioned it last week. I'm going to mention it again. The greatest threat to our marriage is apathy. And, a little over a year ago, we were not in a good place. And if you've listened to the show for any length of time, it's been almost 15 years, you know that we've had a lot of areas in the last 15 years, like a lot of you, that we've had to address. Our pillars have had cracks. We haven't been had the situation be quite right in our marriage. But we're still here. Mm-hmm. And like Tony said, this has been an interesting Christmas, watching friends and people that we know from near and far and seeing a lot of Christmas photos that don't have a spouse in them. People that we knew. And I think it really, it doubles down on our mission to step into this place. And for those of you that are brand new and you don't know what the mission is here at One Extraordinary Marriage, I'm going to tell you. The mission is to impact one marriage every single day.
Yep.
It is why we want you to have a focus for this new year.
And can I just say one thing too? As we say new year, you may be listening to this February of, I don't know, whatever year, or June or August. This is your new year. Mm-hmm. This is your time. You don't need to wait for the clock to strike 12 to start something new. It's now. It's your opportunity to step in and go, okay, we can look at the past and see what happened like we talked about last week. And that could be over the last 3 months, 6 months, a year. Mm-hmm. And yet right now is your time to step in and go, okay, some things need to shift. Mm-hmm. Some pillars are cracked. We need to start strengthening some. Here's what we got to do.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, I think back to the fact, Tony and I had actually brought this up when we woke up on Christmas morning and just, we've had 30 Christmases now together. We were a dating couple, Christmas of 94. I remember he got me a...
I don't remember.
I
don't know how you remember this stuff.
I can't remember yesterday sometimes, guys, but because it was like our first Christmas together, right?
I understand that, but I don't remember what you got me.
I got you silk boxers.
Oh, there you go.
And you got me a box of Mickey Mouse stationery.
I got you.
Yeah. But I think back to that, right? And where we were as at that age, 20 and 21-year-olds versus where we are now, we are constantly growing and changing. We're not the same couple that got married 28 years ago or that had a child 22 years ago or that did the 60-day sex challenge, back in 2008. We're not that same couple. We are growing and changing. And every new year, every new season, there's an opportunity to refocus and maybe revisit where you've lost your focus, where things have gotten lost in the hustle and bustle of life. And, we're doing it too. We're looking at 2025 because that's when this episode is getting released right before New Year's Day, 2025, and thinking about what's our focus going to be this year, because 2024 was all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this year for us is a lot of stability. I think that's the big thing that Elisa and I, if we were to look at the 30,000 foot level, and Lisa and I have had many of conversations. This isn't something that we do the week between Christmas and New Year and try to make it happen. We're talking about this stuff in like November, because we're looking at One Extraordinary Marriage as a whole. We're looking at our lives as a whole, and we're sort of like, okay, what does this look like for us? But I think for myself, it is growth in specific areas of our lives, but it's also stability. And for Elisa and I, we both love that. And I think one of our big dreams is within the next year is that we are able to purchase a home here in Florida. For many of you who have been around for many a years, the podcast started right around, a couple of years after the Great Recession. We had lost our home a couple of years after that. We have not actually owned a home since then, and we are believing that this is going to be the year that we are able to save, that we grow One Extraordinary Marriage to a place where we can be able to put down a 20% down payment on a home here in Florida and call this place home. Every house we have lived in is a home to us. We have done and have had many, many of memories, but it is time for us to go, this is home.
And that's, some of you will be thinking about that this week and just starting to think, like, what does this look like for us? Because Tony's right. It is stability. It is like just cleaning up some of the loose ends after a year of so much move and so much transition. So there's a little bit of cleanup. But I also want to share what the one family is being really focused on, because if you've never participated in one of our Instagram story poll, that's where you can always, we're always engaging you in conversations there. We always want to know what the one family has to say. I'm not like Googling, research studies and that type of thing to get these answers. We want your answers.
Right.
And recently we had asked the question, with 2025 right around the corner, what is your marriage focus for next year? And there were some really powerful responses. And I want you just to start hearing this language. And as Tony and I are sharing these insights, I want you to, something's going to resonate in your spirit. Something's going to hit your heart and you're going to be like, that's us. And here's the deal. It is perfectly okay to use somebody else's response to trigger something in you to get a result. Borrow the one family responses and make them yours.
One other thing I would say, in 6 Pillars of Intimacy, the book, there are 2 pieces after every chapter that Elisa wrote. What can I do? What can we do? And I would say, as you look into your 2025 or wherever you are, look at a point of what can I do and what can we do as you hear these.
So some of the first ones: spending quality time together, intimacy, starting an exciting new season, enjoying life more, working through past trauma to strengthen our bond and work out of a sexless marriage.
Yeah, that one really caught me. Communicating better, restarting our physical and sexual pillars, scheduling more dates and short trips together. That's something that Elisa and I have been discussing ourselves here, living in a new place.
Well, Tony got a Christmas present that was all about travel, all about the state of Florida, like travel, things to do, things to see, because for the last 3 months, he's been like, I just want to go explore Florida. And I'm like, okay, we just can't Google explore Florida. I need something a little more concrete. So that will definitely be part of ours.
My planner wife needs to make sure that we're going somewhere, not going to just roam around the state. Work on our 6 pillars, especially emotional, spiritual, and recreational intimacies.
We're getting married at the end of 2025. So praying for wisdom and navigating wedding planning and being newlyweds. For all of you that are engaged
Amen.
and getting married in 2025, we are already celebrating you. That's awesome.
Absolutely. We got date nights. That recreational intimacy. What's the fun we get to have together? Intentionally working on each pillar and our health.
Financial intimacy and vacations. Joy. Figuring out our physical issues. Recreational intimacy.
Staying together. This is something we brought up at the beginning of this episode. That's a big one for many of you. And I will say, we're going to have some ways that you can do that here after the break. keeping our focus on each other and God as we move forward in faith to grow our family. Monthly focus on each pillar and switching things up. I love it. Staying focused and committed to one another with a new baby on the way in January.
Here's to all the one family babies that are going to be born in 2025. And, you know, like reading through all of these, it was incredible to hear just all of these different thoughts and where you all were thinking that things are going to go. And I want to say, because the coach in me comes out every once in a while, you guys know that when we do a podcast episode, it's kind of like we have to address the fact that these just can't be words, and there has to be action behind them. This is not like just going to the gym January 1st, 2nd, or 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, because you're probably, you know, like still celebrating with friends and family on the 1st, but going to the gym on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th and expecting to have a six-pack if you don't go to the gym the rest of the year. We got to do the same thing with our marriages. And so let's talk about how to make a plan after this break.
Kroger Delivery makes it easy to do your holiday shopping in a jingle. There might be a lot on your to-do list, but thanks to Kroger Delivery, you can get everything you need delivered straight to your door at the same great prices you'd find in store. Our refrigerated trucks always ensure that your groceries arrive fresh. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order of $75 or more and get free delivery with a Boost membership. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop up to 45% off select styles, plus a free professional measure during the Blinds.com year-end blowout. Rules and restrictions may apply.
We're back. And the focus of today's episode is identifying what in your marriage needs focus in this new year, right? And I want to just let's start with some basics, right? First, if you had listened to last week's episode, you likely identified some places where you have been strong, right? Carry those forward. Bring those into this week in the conversation. And then it may have also triggered the second part of that is, where do we have cracks? Where are things not as strong as we want them to be? And definitely use the framework of the 6 pillars of intimacy as a way to start this discussion. It allows you to go, okay, it's not like we have to throw out, what's that expression? Throw out the baby in the bathtub or something like I don't know. Like throw everything out.
You don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. That expression popped into my head, but I don't think it's accurate. Basically,
Somebody
let's not
knows it,
throw
will tell
everything
us.
away when you can get language around each aspect of your marriage, each pillar of intimacy, and really be able to identify what it is that needs to be addressed. Don't just, irreconcilable differences. Be like, hey, which one of these pillars has a crack in it? And then think through, what is our goal? Right? You might just start with a 30-day goal. Can I tell you, there are so many couples out there that over the years have started with a 7-day sex challenge and have done, 100 days, 160 days, 100 and...
Way more than us.
Way more than us. But do you know what they did? They started with a small goal and they just kept going. Or maybe you've got a big goal of where you want to be December 31st, end of the year. And you're like, okay, well, what we need to do is we actually need to work backward and figure out what the baby steps are that are going to get there. 6 pillars of intimacy. I talk about baby steps around every single pillar. Why? Because we don't just get to the goal. If Tony and I want more stability for this upcoming year, then we need to look at the areas where we still don't feel stable. And we have to say, okay, what's going to shore that up? I know one of the things I told Tony is we have to get our trust documents redone for the state of Florida because they've spent the last 20 years being California documents and we no longer live in California. So that's one of those stability things that we have to take care of, but you have to identify it, right? And what are the steps and what needs to change? Because we, again, have had a trust for 20 years, 21? I don't know. Yeah, 21. And, we initially wrote our trust when our kids were 1 and 4.
Yeah, that was many years ago.
They're now both adults. Our trust, our documents look different, and we have to address that, right? But that's part of the goal. And I want to say, if you are looking at this and I remember one of the comments on what folks were going to work on this year was talking about, a monthly focus on each pillar. One of the tools that you might want to get in your hands to be able to do that would be the 6 Pillars of Intimacy monthly planner.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it actually allows couples to, you pull out your calendar, you sit down, maybe you do it as part of a coffee break, and you're like, what pillar of intimacy are we going to focus on this month? What's our plan? And statistically speaking, it's actually very powerful to put those things down, like hand write them instead of just like letting your thumbs do the talking and texting back and forth to each other. You actually experience it when you write it down.
Yeah. And I just want to say about the monthly planner, Elisa and I created that many years ago. We rewrote it in the last year or so. It's a hardcover. So you can go through it and take it with you every week, every month, wherever you're going to go, and just have it. And you can go back, you can flip forward, you can think through things. We've talked about the coffee break many a times over the years here. We have a new and updated version of that in there. So you have sort of a weekly a cadence of what you're talking about and what you're going to do. And I will say, for many of us, and this is something I think even Elisa and I need to get back on, is what's that regular rhythm and cadence of talking, engaging one another around our marriage on a weekly, bi-monthly, right? Bi-monthly, 2 times a month.
I think that's bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly. In doing that, so we're in rhythm. We have time, 30 minutes. Yes, we do a podcast episode every week. And this is one of the ways that we connect every week. And yet, even for ourselves, we're not talking about all 6 pillars of intimacy. We're not talking about every single thing that is going on in our lives. So pick that up. You can go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com/planner, and I'll also have a link here in the episode notes for you.
And I want to say, like, as you're thinking about what the focus is going to be this year, and Tony mentioned it earlier when we were sharing just some of the insights from your peers here in the One Family, ask yourself, what can I do? Right? What actions are you going to take? You can also ask the question, what can we do? Right? Reminding yourselves that the two of you are on the same team. Strong encouragement to stay away from, here's what you need to do. I'm just going to float it out there. Here's what you need to do generally doesn't get a really favorable response because it puts you on opposite sides of the situation. Instead of saying, here's what I can do. Here's what we can do. We're addressing the cracks together.
And I just want to say something here, because this is an area that I've had to work on as well, because it can be very much I'm the one who's more visionary and like, let's go do stuff. And Elisa's more like, I'm going to sit here on my couch on a Saturday and read my book and we're good. And that's the way it's been for many, many years. And so when we get in these conversations, I remember those days when I would be like, well, you need to XYZ. And I could see Elisa cross her arms and get this little
like I just did.
furrow on her brow. And she can become a little 5-year-old girl.
Ooh.
And just digging in her heels.
Let's just say stubborn.
And her dad has some amazing pictures of Elisa when she was younger, and I just love them, and they just crack me up. But I can just see this face, this little 5-year-old, just going like, no, I'm not going to do that. And so the conversation on my side is more like, okay, Elise, tell me what it is that you see yourself being able to do. Where are you? Like, what do you see? Like, and then just shut up. And for myself, that's a little hard. Like, we go on walk and talks, and I'm the one who's usually talking, and Lisa's usually listening. She'll say stuff, but I've learned I have to just shut up and allow her time to think and process. And there's okay for silence. It's okay. Like, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to break. Nothing's going to go wonky. But it's allowing her that space to be able to process, and then sometimes I do have to probe a little bit and be like, okay, it's been 30 minutes now. And it never goes that long. I'm just making it just to give her a little laugh. But it's like, Okay. So what would that look like to you, Elise?
Well, and sometimes it is looking for those solutions. Like Tony has said, probably for the last month, because we've been most of December, we were here in Florida. We just had a few days in New York City. And he's like, I want to go do this and I want to go do that. And I'm like, okay. And so no joke for Christmas, because it was just like, we're all over the place in terms of like, he's like, I want to go here. And I was finally like,
when she's saying all over the place, it's like, I want to go to the Keys. I want to go see the manatees. Like, I want to go to we saw manatees a couple of weeks ago up in like Fort Myers area, but the water was sort of dingy. And so I want to go to like one of these springs where you can actually see the manatees. They're like water potatoes. So I just want to see them.
I like water hippos. Or like, no, they're
no,
not
they call
potatoes.
That's what they call them.
Potatoes?
They call them they call them like water potatoes or something.
I don't think it's a potato. You've just totally insulted. I think water cow, water elephant.
Oh, water cows. Maybe water cows, maybe water elephant. I don't know.
Sea cows.
Sea cows. There we go.
Water potatoes.
I think whatever. That's something else. Somebody who's from Florida, you can correct us. But anyways, I want to see manatees. I love seeing crystal clear water.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
I googled water potato animal, and sure enough, it comes up
with the manatee.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not like I want to go all these places, but we're just trying to figure it out. It's also drive time. We also have our oldest here in town. And so it's just trying to figure out some of these things. So it's not like I'm all over the place.
But it is why I bought him a book, right, of like Florida trips and excursions and things like that to be able to get there. But it's looking at these things. And ultimately, you two are going to know, both individually and as a couple, where to start with your focus. And don't get overwhelmed at the enormity of it. Don't say, oh my gosh, this is too big. We can't do anything. Because I want you to remember the hug that started this episode. They were married 24 years. He moved to Saudi Arabia because they were so dysfunctional. Mm-hmm. They continued to work on their marriage, one podcast episode at a time. She just retired early and moved to Saudi Arabia with him. They fought together for their marriage. And our plea, our focus, our prayer, our encouragement would be that you two do the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As you look at what's ahead, step into it. This is it. Like, it's what we have preached for eons. Be intentional and take action. And as Elisa shared, plan for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Whatever it is, take one pillar and make something happen. Start small and grow. Start with one baby step and take another and another. And I would suspect if you do something like that over the course of 365 days, something will change. Something will happen. A feeling, a movement, a like getting your vows renewed. Something is going to happen because you are willing to go, I'm going to take a step. We're going to take a step together to have the extraordinary marriage we desire. You guys have yourselves a happy new year. We are excited for what's ahead. We are truly honored and blessed that you're part of the one family and you want to do something in your marriage that 99% of the other folks don't want to do. So let's go. Let's go on this ride. Come join us, because who knows what's ahead, because we're going to share as our marriage grows and as things go up and down and sideways and everything else. But I will tell you this. We're going to focus on those 6 pillars of intimacy, and we're going to help you have the intimacy, that closeness and connection you desire in your marriage. You guys have yourselves a fantastic week. Love you guys. Thank you for listening to the One Extraordinary Marriage Show. If you love this podcast, please leave a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you are listening. Your review helps others find the show and know that it's the right fit for them and their marriage.